At 7:30 AM, you're welcome along to OTB AM. We're here with you every morning from 7:30 until 9:30, not 7:45 as the producer incorrectly told everybody on Twitter last night. Tommy, good morning to you.
Morning, Jerry.
Did you forget what time we go to work? Is that what happened?
Yeah, Sunday blues there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sunday blues. Looking forward
Glen
to
Rowe music
Monday
playing.
morning.
You're too young to remember that, are you?
I am, unfortunately, yeah.
Really? You don't? That means nothing to you?
Well, I grew up in America, so I wasn't here
fair
for Glen Rowe.
enough. Okay,
That's it.
Yeah.
What weekend?
Yeah. Everybody's saying in the papers today, oh, geez, this is it now. Dublin are primed for dominance for the next 6 or 7 years. I'm not sure. I think that what we saw was the end of that team in many ways, and I'm not sure Jim Gavin's staying. I don't know.
Really?
I've got strong rumours sweeping the pub on Saturday night.
Your WhatsApp was late at 4 a.m.
Yeah, it was.
Let's be ready for something. But look, there's always that talk after big days like this, isn't there?
Well, Cluxton did a lap of honour around the pitch.
He did.
Like a full lap. Now maybe he did that every year and I haven't stayed around for the end of it every time and I haven't always seen it, but there looked like there was a pronounced maybe they're just experienced now and they understand they've got to take it in. And it was history. It was the 5 in a row, so maybe they were dealing with it in a different way from
There is an image of Cluxton on the corner of the Hogan and the Cusack, or the Hogan and the Davin stand, and Bernard Brogan and his sons just behind them as well, and they're the last two on the pitch.
Yeah, so we know Bernard Brogan is going to finish at the end of this year. You wouldn't be surprised if 5 or 6 others went as well. And suddenly, the matchday squad of 26 is down to 20, and maybe Cluxton and Jim Gavin are gone, and suddenly I think there's a different texture to it. And so that's why it's worth talking about this, to put in context what we've seen and just how big an event that was at the weekend. Because I'm not sure that they're as far ahead of Kerry as people are making out after that game. It was pretty close.
It was very close.
Stephen O'Brien squares the ball, or...
Oh, poor Stephen O'Brien. He's in that position. I'd say if he goes through that position 100 times in his head, he doesn't blast the ball at Stephen Cluxton. He composes himself. He gives the eyes and he slips it under him. Or he flicks it to Paul Ganey. He doesn't blast it at Stephen Cluxton. You just don't do that. But the scenes, as you said, they were so emotional after the game. They were incredible. The photos are amazing. I spent about an hour going through Sports File on Saturday night. The photos were just so good. That's coming from a Mead man. I was so happy for the Dublin lads. I was actually delighted because they are a great bunch of fellas.
What's going on here? This is the team that tormented us every year.
They're a great team, but they're odds on. I think Amy Sweeney has it in the undertake. They are odds on for eight in a row. That's what the bookies are offering.
Taking that. Kerry right there, and Kerry Young, and Kerry are the best two 20-year-olds we've ever seen.
I know. When you compare them to Mannion and Con, Clifford and O'Shea are there, and then Kerry have loads of young lads coming through, and they are going to have so many regrets. We were outside looking at the moment in the 45th minute, and we were talking, some of the lads are saying that Dim Connolly didn't mean that pass to Kieran Kilkenny. I'm convinced he did. But we were looking at the turnover.
Wash your mouth out.
The turnover at the 45th minute. Cluxton gives away a kick out. Moran breaks it down. Kerry win it.
I was in the post-match interview, Peter Keane says, we got it back to 2 points in the second half. And in the pub afterwards, and when we were talking about it, it was they couldn't get it back. They just couldn't get close enough to get it back. And then it feels like it was only a point. And I was like, no, it wasn't. It was 2. Sure, even Peter Keane said it was 2.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I've just seen the clip. There's only a point in the game at that point.
When Connolly rips that ball.
And they lost the kick out.
And Kerry had it.
In the kick out, they've got to go back to 1 point, and suddenly Connolly just uses his chest and rips the ball off.
And then there's that pass. I know. His performance kind of split everybody. Should have squared that ball. Should have probably popped it over the bar. He should have just taken his point. Jeremy Connolly's swan song.
You've got to go for the goal, right?
I know, yeah.
So I don't think it's a swan song. I think that he's going to come back for another year.
So do I, 100%. What about Paddy Andrews?
Will he come back or not?
Yeah.
I don't know. He didn't get any game time in the big games at the end.
He got the jaw broken earlier in the year. I think that man will come back again.
Okay, right. So that put him back and gave everybody else the opportunity.
Yeah. What about Philly? Philly
says he's coming back. If he's asked back, he's going to come back.
I think he is as well. He's battering Tommy Walsh on the sideline before he comes in.
That's what he said. And I would be amazed if there wasn't a role for him. There's a man-marking role for him as long as Kerry have
Tommy.
Yeah, it's but when they were out in the pitch, it was look at the size difference.
I know.
There's a foot and a half between them, really. And Tommy Walsh is kind of cartoon big.
Yeah, he's massive.
The width and the shoulder size and He's just like a perfectly stretched human being. He's a superhero style.
But sometimes you don't have to be as big as them. Sometimes it's about using your body, being cute enough to be able to hip somebody, or being smart enough not to give away a foul. You know the way Cooper had the hands on Clifford? Well, it's about using every other part of your body to be able to keep a man like that down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, but it turned out no one could, and he was brilliant when he came on and he won every ball.
I was tearing my hair out. Kerry's 4 high balls in a row. When Dublin were 5-1 up. Like, if you're going to do that, start Tommy Walsh.
Well, it made no sense. That bit didn't make any sense. And then, obviously, they went away from that and they completely dominated the next 30 minutes. Dublin 5 points on the scoreboard in the first 6 minutes.
Yeah.
They scored another 5 points in the next 30 minutes. And, then Merchant's goal, obviously. But people were giving out about, some people we know were giving out about David Moore not catching the ball. I'm like, it's not his fault that Owen Merchant picks the ball up inside his own half and runs the length of the field.
And Moran is chasing him. He's doing his best to foul him. But you know the difference is? Tyg Morley is tearing through in goal. A Kerry defender versus a Dublin forward. Clifford puts him through. He's tearing through in goal. Conor Callaghan and Mick Fitzsimons somehow foul him and drag him back. Somehow don't get booked or black carded.
Well,
fair enough, right?
Tick.
It's not a penalty. It's not a goal. It's nothing. Kerry get a point from that. Where 9 seconds into the second half, Moran does try and foul him, but he just can't hold on to him.
He should have just pulled him back.
He should have just pulled him back. Should have taken the yellow card. Just grabbed him, pulled him back, but he just couldn't get a hold of him.
Yeah.
But breaking that ball, I guarantee you, right, Kerry had a plan to start that second half. They're going to set the tone. Michael Darmacaulay does it all the time for Dublin. He nails the ball back 20, 30 yards.
Yeah.
And all the Dubs gathered, and then they're through in goal. Moran does it. Merchant picks it up. Fair enough, he takes steps. But
well, I think he gets away with the steps because the referee's got his hand up for.
I think he takes steps before that as well, but it doesn't matter. It's one of the great All-Ireland final goals.
I think he has his hand up for an advantage, and so the rules seem a little bit flaky for my liking around that. Are you allowed then from advantage? Do you get another 5 goals?
I don't know.
Because that would be like, oh yeah, he got 5 in, he's been fouled. I'm going to give him the advantage. He can start again.
He played a serious advantage for Conor Callaghan in the first half as well. He let Connor's point to stand.
The communication around that was horrific.
I wonder did he have Con under over 3.5 points or something? I don't know.
The communication around that was absolutely horrific because we were like, what happened there? Because they didn't know.
Yeah.
It looked like everybody had stopped. That there was a free.
Are you talking? Yeah.
For Cons. Yeah.
It did look like that. But just on that, I know they all had quietish games in the first game. The Kerry defenders did unbelievably on them. But Conor Callaghan, Kieran Kilkenny, and Paul Mannion. Those 3 performances were absolutely sensational.
Yeah, Mannion kicked a few into the keeper's hands that
Just 1 or 2, but you're going to get that.
And he had a couple of wides as well, or maybe 1 wide that was pretty egregious. But then actually in the second half, when it was really kind of back in, when it gets back to a point or 2, it's Mannion just kicking him and going, no, I'm going to take this now. I'm going to be the one who's responsible for it. Let's play you some of this. It's Jack McCaffrey yesterday. Here he is at Crumlin Children's Hospital talking about the value of sport in our society. Really, have a look.
To start off with coming here to Crumlin and heading over to Temple Street now is one of the greatest honours I've ever had in my life. And you walk in, you see kids were sick and families were on a tough journey a lot, and to see the joy that us playing football gives them is astounding. And rather than diminishing what some people say, look, it puts things into perspective, football doesn't really matter. No, it absolutely highlights how much sport matters and how special what we've managed to do is, and to see the release and the satisfaction that some of these guys get from it it's really emotional. The other thing you asked me about was the kind of final whistle and the moments after it. I suppose the overall permeating emotion is relief, and you kind of have these individual little meetings on the pitch where you keep bumping into the lads and the various members of the management team, and you see people in the crowd and all that, and it's something that unfortunately you can't really take stock of at the time, and it'll take the next couple of weeks for it to hit home, but memories will cherish forever.
Yeah, great stuff there from Jack McCaffrey, and I think that that bit where he's like, put sport into perspective. No, it absolutely shows you how much sport means is true, and we should take time to talk about this because it doesn't feel like it's ever going to happen again. Anthony Moyes, good morning to you.
Morning, Ger. How you doing?
Well, we were just chatting there. We were speculating with no information, but that it felt to me like there was a few goodbyes going on. I thought that perhaps Cluxton was saying goodbye on his lap of honour. I mean, he's put a lot in. He's reached a height that no one else has ever reached. He's been the most influential Gaelic footballer of his generation and potentially any generation. So, there are no more mountains for some of these guys.
No, it's probably difficult enough to kind of. I don't think it's necessarily. I think some of them will be able to do it. Like I think Cluxon would be physically able to do it, right? There's no issue there. I think a number of them will be physically able to do it. It's just actually just the desire and the real desire inside, and actually other stuff that's going on in your life.
Yeah,
because it's a long season. They're going all the way to the very, very end. They'll kick straight back into a bit of club stuff, straight away. So it's a very, very long season, and it has been a long number of seasons then for a number of them. So you've got fellas obviously with jobs. I know Cluxon is a teacher, but Paddy Andrews has a pretty stressful enough job, I would imagine. Keane O'Sullivan is the same. Philly is doing his own thing, but trying to build a business, which takes time.
Multiple businesses.
Multiple businesses. The profile helps, and will continue to help. So that might be a figure in his head to go, well, actually, am I better off being inside the camp rather than outside the camp? And as ex-Dublin footballer rather than still being Dublin footballer. Probably the same question for Bernard, really. But I think your motivation can't just be, I want to stay around and do all that slog just so I can enhance my career or my business or whatever it is, because then you're not really doing it for the right reasons. Now, I'm not saying that would be the overriding emotion, but it might still be in the back of your head. I think you'll see 4 or 5 of them saying that's it. And
there's a possibility that Jim Gavin goes as well. Like there's somebody who has an exterior life beyond football, which is very high profile, and no doubt there's pressure involved in that too. So suddenly things change. This whole notion of this is a forever thing that we're going to live through forever, that's not right.
No, and it does change. I think like, if you were Gavin, would you go?
I mean, maybe. I would be tempted to.
So would I.
Like, so what if you come back and you get 6?
You come back and get 7? I mean, back and get 8. So when when's enough? And I don't mean that from a Dublin GAA standpoint. Like, I mean, you could easily do 6, 7, 8. But I think for him,
what if they lost? Do you know?
Yeah, I think I felt this one, there was more pressure on him on this one than any other previous one, purely because of, never mind the opposition obviously, but like, I mean, Mayo obviously ran them close in the past, but the history of Kerry, Dublin, all that different type of stuff. But I just think some of the decisions he and his team have made, as in management team, over the last 3 or 4 months, primarily, Connolly. Obviously bringing Bernard back in, there was a fair amount of media speculation in the last 2 weeks about getting Bernard back in, and he got back in. Didn't see game time, and I kind of felt like, was that a tip of the hat? Was that pressure being brought to bear from outside influences? I don't know. Then you have the Connolly situation, and you're kind of going, how has that really sat with the panel? Like, when I'm sure they're all saying, oh, that's no problem, but when they're really at home on their own and they're talking to their wives or their girlfriends or whatever, they're saying, like, you know what, I'm really pissed off that he's back in. I've done all the hard slog. He was going to go to America. Does it cause angst? And is it a sword that he may have potentially fallen on? If it doesn't go right.
Yeah, and look, my view on that was always that if Connolly is in the country and he's in Croke Park on All-Ireland final day and the camera pans to him in the crowd and they pick him out and he's not on the field and Dublin lose, then everybody's going to go, Jim didn't bend over backwards, Jim didn't do enough to try and win this thing. So, like, I always thought that he played that quite well, and I'm sure that if you were McManaman or Paddy Andrews or Bernard Brogan, you would have been like, hang on a second now, because that's my place. That's my place on the bench that he's taken.
Yes.
Whereas if you're one of the defenders, you're like, great, I get to go up against this guy and train, and I get to, Like, so Jack McCaffrey's saying that in the paper today, I was beaming when Connolly came back. It was great, Now he is saying this, like, the full emotional thing is happening. It's the day after. He's in good form, and he's like,
there's a lot of emotion.
He's the happiest man he's ever going to be.
There's a lot of endorphins flying around.
There's like multiple, like shot in the arm.
But what if the flip of that happens? So what if you're a bet, and the camera pans to Brogan sitting on the bench, or Owen O'Gara sitting in the stand, and they have a face on them like that would stop a clock, and they have Connolly on the pitch, and he's not like Connolly was okay when he came on.
It was a risk.
He did 1 or 2 good things, and he did 3 or 4 pretty ordinary things. He got caught in possession. He kicked 1 or 2 wides. He was just but it's funny. when he came on, you can just see straight away, if you were to ask anyone who doesn't have anything about Gaelic football, what does this guy, he does things that no one else does on the pitch.
Yeah.
You know, even the balls he was given, you know, he hit this beautiful outside of the right ball that just went a bit too far. Do you remember across the pitch, it skidded on the grass and the Kerry guy got it like a little bit less, and that was an unbelievable pass. I can't remember who came out to it. His ball into Kilkenny, whether it was on for O'Callaghan or not, is debatable, but still he does things and he tries things, but actually that don't really fit in the makeup of the team.
I would have said that, and then there was so much kick passing going on from Dublin straight out. There was a couple of times where they went the length of the pitch, catch, kick, and holy shit, this is like, you know, they can do anything and everything, and so that was a bit of a wild card, I thought, for Kerry to suddenly go, what do we do here? How do we deal with that?
Yeah.
Look, I mean, we're sitting here now post-event, and you would say that it worked out. I don't think it was the reason they won. You know, they didn't win because...
No. But it could have been potentially the reason they lost. And I just mean that in the sense of, and I know this is complete semantics here, but you're talking about potentially the impact it really had in the panel. You know, like, I mean, no one will really know. Maybe you'll hear some sort of, I doubt it, right? They've won. But you know the usual, right? You win, you're an absolute hero. You lose, all of a sudden everyone's pointing the finger and saying, like, I mean, you should never have brought him back in. There was this, there was always going to be plenty of that. I thought Dublin really did it really brilliantly over the last couple of weeks, and I have to say, you know, they were top notch yesterday. But I thought Kerry really will regret yesterday. Never mind the first day. I think some of the stuff they did, I thought was quite basic in their errors. I think in some of their matchups, in their use of the subs, in use of the panel actually, and some of the ideas that they had. You know, whether that first 10 minutes was preordained or not, I just thought it was absolutely handing the impetus to Dublin.
Yeah, and they spent the whole rest of the half getting back into the game and kind of being the better team for a long period of time in that first half. But the effort it takes out of you to get back from having coughed up a 5-point lead.
Look, I mean, I've played against Dublin before where they come out of the traps lively and you're always saying to yourself you're going to be 5 or 6 down, and then you start to dig into it, and you're kind of, the amount of effort, as you say, to get back 6-all or 7-6 is unbelievable. The first 10 minutes you can watch it. There's and it's not even that a lot of it, the first 7-8 minutes, this high ball idea into the full forward line, which was very, very straight.
It was lorried in as opposed to...
Yeah, and 3 of them came from dead balls. 3 of them came. 2, Moran had 2, and Sean O'Shea had 1. So there were balls that they had in their own possession, no pressure on the kick, and you're kind of going, just give it and go, just pass and move. But instead they were lumped in, and actually on 3 occasions, like I watched the video again last night, you have a 4-on-2, a 5-on-2, and a 4-on-2.
Yeah.
Without Cluxton.
Not great odds.
Not great odds. Like, you're kind of going, you know, okay, if we get 1, great. But, like, I mean, Dublin have obviously gone, okay, they're going to do this. So you have to quickly change. Now, after about 7, 8, 9 minutes, you see they actually do change. They start putting the ball through the hands. And then all of a sudden they start getting joy. Yeah. But at that stage, it's 5-1. You know, and you're kind of going, lads, we've already created a mountain here for ourselves. Now, they climbed it brilliantly, but, you know, when you've guys like that inside, and you would have had to have thought Dublin are definitely going to be afraid of the threat in there, so they're going to deploy a man back, and we need to actually, even if we do it once, we then change. Now, the tactic could have been, we're going to do this for a certain period of time, lead Dublin into this false sense that we're going to just continue to do this, and then actually play, you know, balls inside, lower balls, and come out in front, grab them, because that'll make the defenders take a step back rather than a step forward. I don't know, but it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, that I hadn't thought about that it was like you establish this, but actually the real thing you're trying to do is play them, make sure the defenders play from behind instead of in front.
It could have been, because, like, I mean, so as a defender, when you start seeing those balls, you kind of go, well, I'm not going to take that step in front, I'm actually going to play him from slightly behind, and then what you do is as soon as you see the man kind of nearly shaping up to kick it, you're already thinking about getting back to base.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he just makes a 20-yard forward run and he just gets a handy ball out in front, which they did start to find pockets of space. But actually even the score, like, remember Geeney's score, O'Buglig made a bit of a run, he got fouled, he went down and he flicked it across, Geeney hit it with his left foot. Could have been a bit of a goal chance. That was just a lot of patience. They were just finding gaps in the Dublin defence, and the Dublin defence did very, very well. Like, they were a very tight unit. I just there was a couple of those, like, I mean, if you're going to do that again, then why don't you start Tommy Walsh?
I mean, look, let's come back to the East Time Watch a little later on, because there's loads of points up and raised there that we should dig into, and we will get into this in proper detail in a couple of minutes' time. 7:50 a.m. this morning. Here's what's coming up. Sports Pages reaction to the Dubs around about 8 o'clock. Going to continue talking about the All-Ireland final all the way up until about 8:30 this morning. Alan Quinlan's going to join us around about 8:35. We're going to be joined by Paul Beelan at 8:20 this morning to talk about the 1995 influence, obviously. A manager and 2 key members of the backroom team, all part of that 1995 team. Owen in Japan at 8:50. He'll still be awake. It's going to be the middle of the night for him. Oh no, it's early morning, isn't it? Because there was a press conference 7 a.m. Japan time, so it'll be around midday. And Sports News around about 9:15. So we'll get to the papers now. The Star this morning have a wraparound record breakers, and the S is the 5 that was in the crowd there. So there's some of the pictures that Tommy was talking about, including the hospital ones yesterday, where they've brought the cup. A very relaxed day for them. Crying Cockles and Mussels, alive at 5-0. We're all going to be singing this, are we? Eamon McGee says the chasing pack are gaining on the Dubs in his piece today, and I actually think that's true. I think that...
Who does he put in the chasing pack?
Well, I presume he's talking about everybody from Kerry and... He says Kerry, Mayo and Donegal. Now, I'm not sure Mayo are getting closer, but look, what happens if Cluxton does go? They're a different team. Everything has changed.
It definitely takes a couple of points away from them and adds a couple of points to everyone else. Absolutely.
I think part of that's confidence. Part of that's, we're not going to get beaten over our heads by this guy. Even if Evan Comfort is as good, he's not established yet. There's like the mythology that builds up around teams.
Well, does Cluxton get Footballer of the Year this year?
I think so, doesn't he?
I think he has to.
Like,
big moments again yesterday. You know, we talked about those big long balls in. 2 of those he came and just...
Yeah.
And the confidence that, like, Davy Byrne at one stage is out in front with his hand, and he knows he's coming, and he knows he's going to get it too. There was no real sense of panic when they were going in, because Cluxton he's brave, and he's big, and he's well able to come for those. And when he comes with confidence. And like, I mean, the save then, he cuts down the angle of O'Brien. Like, he did everything he needed to do. The saves in the first game.
Is it Fenton who has the wide after the amazing kick out where Kerry's Mayor Ishka is on the field marking Kilkenny, and he just spots that that's not actually a footballer and pings it straight to Kilkenny, but it's like a 70-yard ball straight into Kilkenny, who lays it off, and then there's a not a great wide, a bad wide. And you're like, you've just ruined like one of my highlight moments of the year. Like, that kick out now is completely useless.
No, he is. He's. But if he does go, it leaves a massive hole, a really, really big hole for him. I've got the Guardian here, and I like the way I've got all the UK ones here.
just an accident. Tommy took those.
What a summer it's been. Root hails series draw and says England will get better. That's Steve Smith there shaking hands, looking extremely young. I couldn't believe how young Steve Smith looks there, shaking hands with Joe Root, obviously after England lost the Ashes. Oh, they won the Ashes. Oh, there we go.
This is the Sun here. Deja Blue, Dubs do it again, and that's Jackie's 3 in a row. Obviously it was a double weekend for the Dubs, and then I have a deep love for these guys. Jack's got the bug. It's Jack McCaffrey talking about how much he loves his teammates. The news coming from Japan is that Joe Schmidt will be staying in Ireland, that he's not going to move back to New Zealand. He confirmed that it was his mother who passed away recently, and that was the funeral that he'd headed down to New Zealand for. Remember, before the Italy game, that he'd gone down to New Zealand after a bereavement. So it looks like he's going to be staying in Ireland. And I'm just trying to find Alan Shearer's column here, but it's not. Is it in the Irish edition? I'm not sure if it is in the Irish edition. You tell us what you got there.
Yeah, I've got the Times. See you down under in 2021. England draw series. They drew the series and obviously won it on the draw. This is an interesting one. Farrell's tackle style outlawed. So they're saying that Owen Farrell has been forced to make changes to his tackling technique to avoid being caught in a World Cup crackdown on dangerous play. The England captain escaped punishment for 2 shoulder charges where he failed to wrap his arms properly around the opponent last autumn. If you remember that, actually.
Yeah.
He absolutely nailed the 2 guys. One South African and one Australian fella. And he does he definitely comes and hits you with the shoulder rather than actually getting the hands across. So, so that's an interesting one for Farrell.
I want to play a bit more of this. Here's some Brian Howard speaking yesterday. Have a look at this.
I know we spoke to Jim yesterday after the game, and he said he felt that overall the All-Ireland finals, the atmosphere was never as good as it was yesterday. What was it like for you?
Yeah, it was amazing. I know when I was a kid, that's what I dreamt of, and to be able to play 2 in 2 weeks, I know some people are probably like, the last one because it was a job, but I was more excited now because I knew what we had to do, and we knew going into this game that we wanted to win, obviously, and what we had to do and to put the wrongs right from the last game, and thankfully we did that.
What was the buzz like when the final whistle blew and you knew what you'd done?
I don't think, obviously the 5 in a row, it's huge and it's an amazing achievement, but once the whistle went, I think it was just a sense of relief for 2019's All-Ireland, because when we met back up in January, that was our main goal to win it this year, and regardless of the 5 in a row, we knew the significance behind this year, but we knew going in that we just needed to do our job, and hopefully that was going to be enough, and thankfully it was. And
lastly, you've said the words 5 in a row a couple of times there. They weren't words you guys use too much in the build-up, but when you're older, you might have kids, you might have grandkids. Is it something you look back and go, I was part of that team that made that 5 history?
Yeah, and it's a huge honour to be involved. But I know, speaking on behalf of a lot of the younger lads and even some of the older lads that aren't that are sticking around, that we don't want to stop here. We want to keep going, and we're hungrier than ever. Because personally, this is my 3rd, so I'd like to make my own 5 in a row. So that's what we're going to hope.
It's funny hearing Brian Howard say that he was really excited by the second game. Jack McCaffrey in the papers today is saying he was just sickened by the whole notion of having to go back training, that he'd emptied out his locker at training before the first game, and that whole following week he was like, on Tuesday, the whole notion of playing a game of football just wasn't into it. Missed training on Thursday because of work, and just was like not into the whole notion of having to play a replay. Whereas Brian Howard's like, yeah, I was really excited, I got to play again.
He was unbelievable. He's had an unbelievable year. I thought he was fantastic yesterday, Howard.
Definitely should be in the conversation for Footballer of the Year. The performance in the drawn match was one of the best individual performances I've seen. Like, obviously, he didn't even get man of the match for that, but it was sensational. And but I think it is probably Cluxton at this point, is it?
I think it is Cluxton, yeah. But when he had to make a few readjustments yesterday. Obviously, when McCaffrey went off, McCarthy back in and him into midfield, and he essentially took Moran for a lot of it. There's a ball at around 61, 62 minutes. I don't know if you remember. There's a kick out, and someone comes in and cleans him from the back, and the ball breaks, and there's 3 Kerry men. There's 2 Kerry men coming in, and there's a Kerry man, and he dives on the ground to get it.
Yes.
And I kind of went, Kerry aren't winning this game.
That was sensational.
It was unbelievable, because he had no right to get it. And he got it, and he was up, like his athleticism, because he grabs it, and you think, okay, he's going to land on the ball, and then they're going to come in and smother him. But he gets up and gets out and gets a pass away. It was just. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. And he plays a different role to Kilkenny, where Kilkenny kind of swings the ball and moves around. The other step he has where he just comes back onto his right foot. They're all so aware of it now. It's kind of like the Kavanagh step. Like, everyone is kind of going, you can't get too close to him. So by virtue of that, he's able to get his head up and ping balls.
Yeah. And still, there's there's definitely more to come from him as he gets more and more comfortable and they expand his role.
Yeah.
The Herald, the back and front there, 6 appeal and the famous 5. One more year, they're asking on the front cover of the Herald this morning. So it's a full football final special here. Blues hero Jim Coy on future is the sub-headline. Dublin manager Jim Gavin will take time to reflect on his future after leading his team to GAA history. So there was...
It'll be interesting because I think Jason Sherlock has a pretty new a big appointment in DCU. So again, that'll be interesting to see. Will he, because I think they're very much a team, in what they do. Very, very interesting again yesterday. There was 3 or 4 massive things, we can get into it later, of basketball things that they did, like, just really, really well. 4 scores that really worked.
Right.
Yeah, some brilliant, brilliant stuff. Like, you remember people saying they're using the referee?
Yeah.
Don't know if you remember the score, but I think it was either Mannion or Rock near the end, where they're coming and he comes out on the loop around. Someone just pops in the pass and he goes around Connor Lane and the Kerry defender has to cut across in front of him. He just sticks it over the bar. And then there's another one where McCarthy,
a brilliant third man tackle.
Yeah, it was just a lovely shield. Well, he just kind of stood there and just bump.
Yeah.
Just bumped him. The perfect shield, as in basketball. Lane didn't pick it up, and he just sticks it over the bar.
And suddenly there's like 10 yards. Sean O'Shea is the one who's like, well, and they didn't give out about it. You're kind of thinking, that's the type of thing you're saying, ref, did you not see this? Linesman, umpire, you know?
Yeah.
There was definitely like a little bit of inexperience around that. So.
But you see, you can do it. Like, I mean, you know, I can just, I just happened to. But you can see McCarthy. McCarthy is watching it from behind, and he knows that the ball's going to come out. He's going to give it and just step in front.
Front cover of the Examiner, a 5 Alive O with history made. Will everyone else still be dancing to Dublin's tune in 2020? Kevin McMahon. I wonder, will Kevin McMahon stick around?
Yeah, he's probably in my 5, to be honest.
5 who are going?
Yeah. I think he's in there. I think you've got O'Gara, you've McMenamum, you've Bernard, you've Paddy Andrews. That's 4. You may have more. You know, potentially Cluxton.
Yeah, and then if Cluxton goes, loads more go. Do they kind of decide, right, well, look, it's time for the next generation now, or? Yeah,
I'm not sure, like, of some of the other guys in the panel, like Darren Day, I'm not sure what age he would be, but there's a number of fellas that you would imagine who, it's a massive pull of experience away as well, you know, away from the setup.
Daly's 32, Tommy's telling me there.
Right.
The Irish Times this morning, and they've got the picture of the balloon, the 5 balloon. On this clear day, Dublin can see forever, is the headline in Keith Duggan's piece. And then Ireland well set for cover if Henshaw is ruled out. So the news about Henshaw, I think, is not as negative as it was around throw-in time in the game on Saturday evening. It was coming through from Japan that Henshaw had done his hamstring, and all number of potential permutations, including Will Addison replacing him in the squad, were being floated at that stage. So I think that's all the papers this morning. Have you got anything else for us?
I've got the Telegraph. More talk, obviously, there about route redemption of the England cricketers. Also, there's a little bit on Europe. The miracle of Glen Eagles. Wildcard Peterson grabs the Solheim Cup with final putt heroics. It was meant to be unbelievable drama in Glen Eagles. And you have a little bit, obviously, about Watford and what they did with to Arsenal. Happy enough with that.
Are you a Spurs fan?
Yeah.
Right, sorry, I missed that.
That's all right.
They was it 2-0? Did they come back for 2-0, or was it just shocking defending?
They gave up 2-goal lead, yeah. So as we were saying, kind of half-time, all the Arsenal fans were like, yes, this is what we wanted.
Yeah.
It's the type of football we need. And then by the end of it, it was like, oh.
I missed that. I was watching the All-Ireland final back again. It's a very different experience watching the game on TV from being at the ground.
Massively. Yeah. I couldn't get there on Saturday, so I watched it twice. But it is very different. You just don't see all that. Like, I mean, people were saying about Tommy Walsh in Philly. Of course, you don't catch that on the TV.
And then you're trying to put a camera on that.
Yeah, and I was trying my best to get the matchups. And even when you're watching it on TV, you're going, it's hard to pick up the matchups, you know, because you can't see it obviously in real time.
Yeah,
because the defences are setting up.
And ultimately it's very zonal in loads of different ways. So at the first game, people were saying, Jack Barry was like a shadow to Fence. I was like, no, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
Like, not at all.
Near him. No.
Exactly. But I was reading the papers going, I don't know, there was just bits and pieces of that, and seeing on Twitter especially, it was like, Fenton was better in this game, but he wasn't at his full...
No, he wasn't imperious as usual. Was Crowley playing 6 for Kerry? Because sometimes on the TV it looked like he actually was kind of playing left half back.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then drifting in. Because the middle again caught them.
It seemed to be tracking Kilkenny.
Yeah, if you watch the middle, most of the good scores Dublin got and the big scores were just simple balls down the middle where they pulled guys out of the middle and then they just popped balls in front. And either it was Con or someone else in there, he just turned bang over the bar.
Do you just need a midfielder whose job it is to be an extra body in the middle? Is that like...
I think so. You're either doing that or you're telling Crowley or whoever, don't worry about going out left and right.
Yeah.
Leave them out there. Because I think they were caught in between a little bit of man marking where they were being pulled. But then ultimately Dublin, like there was a lot of, if you remember, there was a number of easy scores where they just put it into that area and it was one-on-one in that area.
Yeah.
And it was Con, I think, a couple of times he just turned and just stuck it over. Actually, the one which he probably could have got a goal on, he blasted it over. Even Scully's one, do you remember? For the shot?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Scully finds himself in acres of space in the middle of that time.
That was just after the goal. No, it was Scully's just after
O'Brien's chance.
Right.
basically it came down the field. They should have had a goal too. Dublin had a shot.
Yeah, that would have been the ball game right there. But it ended up not mattering that much. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to get back to you about how the All-Ireland final was won and lost. You can give us your comments, hashtag OTB AM on Twitter. You can leave a comment on whatever stream you're watching us this morning. It's 8:05. OTB AM.